Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Destiny and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we're going to go ahead and start working with ad review. And in this one, we're going to be adding reviews using form, and we're going to be doing that using jQuery Ajax. So we don't have to refresh this page whenever we submit this form to make a review. It's just going to get appended automatically, and this form is going to be removed just like that. So make sure to drop a like on this video and consider subscribing if you really want to see more videos like this and enjoy what I'm doing. And also, if you want to get the templates, check out the link in the description below. They should point you to the right direction to get a template. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Now, the first thing that we are going to do is go ahead and create a form that's going to help us grab everything that we've got in here. So don't get me wrong, you could as well use just input fields for it. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to minimize all these codes that we've got over here, and I want to stick with this one over here that's used for making reviews. Okay, so we've got all this input fields. We wouldn't be using all this. I'm going to go ahead and comment almost all of them out, and we're going to stick with just this text area. And I also even want to comment it out because we won't be using that. We're going to be creating that using Django forms. Okay, so if I come over to this review now, then you see that we don't have any form over there. We've just got a star and a submit review. So let's go ahead and create a new file, Forms.py, in the core. So in the core, I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to call it Forms.py. And for this one, what I could do is just simply go ahead and import forms, then go ahead and create a very simple form that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to say from Django, I want to go ahead and import forms. Okay, so hopefully there is no problem with that. And another thing that I'd want to do is from core, I'm going to get rid of this. I think there should be a problem somewhere, and I'm going to refresh my server. Now I want to say from Django, I want to go ahead and import forms. Okay, now I also want to say from core.models, I want to go ahead and import, what is it? That should be product review. Okay, so now in order to create a form, I'm simply going to say class, and I'm going to call product review. This is it over here. I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to put it down there, product review form, and we will not pass in forms.model form in here. So this is the easiest way to create form in Django. There's a lot of functionality that you can still add. For example, let's say we want to add placeholders and classes to Django forms. The best way to do that is to come over here and pass in review. This review is simply the field that we've got over here. So make sure whatever field you passed in here, that's what you're passing in the forms.py. So I'm going to say review should be equal to, then I'm going to say forms.char field, and in here what we want to use is a widget. So I'm gonna use widget. For widgets, we're simply gonna pass in forms.text area, because that's where the form is, that's where the body of the review is going to be staying. So we want it to be the text area because it's pretty big, right? And another thing that we're going to be adding is a placeholder. So the placeholder that we want to add to the text area is going to be something like write review. I'm simply gonna say write, and over here we could just go ahead and pass in review. Okay, so I'm gonna grab this and I'm gonna put it down there, write review. Now let's go ahead and create the form. I'm gonna say class meta, and we want to pass in a couple of things. The model that we want to interact with is the product review that we imported at the top. And for the fields, I'm gonna go ahead and say they should be equal to, firstly there's gonna be review, and that should be review. And also what field also do we need? We also need the rating, right? Those are just the fields that we need. Now hopefully I've explained all this in depthly when we're working with a register and login form, and hopefully you guys understand how all this works now. So we need to get back to the views.py, and we need to import this at the top. So this form that we just created, we need to import it over here. I'm going to say from core.forms, I want to go ahead and import product review form. That's it over there. So now let's go ahead and create the view that's actually going to create a comment. Okay, so I want to minimize all this so I have more space to work with. Just down here, this is where I want to create it. So I'm gonna minimize this. Now I want to say define, and now take note, you can call this one whatever you want. It's just review. I'm gonna say define Ajax add review, okay, or add review form, whatever you want to add. Then in here I'm just gonna pass in request. So I'm gonna pass in, this should be request, and we're gonna pass in PID. So PID is the product that we are gonna PID is the product ID that we're gonna be dropping a review on. Okay, now let's get the product. So I'm gonna say product should be equal to product.object.get, and we want to get it by PID should be equal to PID that will pass at the top. So by now, hopefully all these things are beginning to make sense, or we could even say PK should be equal to PID. It's totally up to you the way you want to get it. And we could also get the logged in user. So I'm going to say user should be equal to request.user. That's how to get the logged in user. Now let's go ahead and grab everything that we're going to be passing into the form. But before we do this now, there's something I want to do. I'm going to come over okay, what we could do is even go ahead and just display this form, display this product review form that we created in the detail page. So I'm going to open up this detail page, and I'm going to say product review form. Okay, for this one, I'm going to say review underscore form, and we could simply just pass in the product review form and initialize it. Okay, so now you want to make sure that you pass this into the context, so we're going to be able to access it in the template. So after passing this in, I'm just gonna grab it and come over to the products detail. Take note, right now we don't have any form over here, but what's gonna happen if I just paste this down here and wrap it in double curly brackets and refresh my page? Let's see what's gonna happen. Now we should see the form, right? What do you notice? Now we have a form, right, review, and the rating that we're going to be using. So we don't want to see this review thing over here, or this rating. We don't want to see that because we have placeholders for it already. So for that one, we're just going to say form.review. That's to get the specific one that we're going to be needing. And also for the rating, I'm just going to copy this one and I'm going to put it down here. Okay. And for this one, it's going to be from the rating. Okay, simple as that. Now that's pretty much what you want to do. Let's get back here and refresh. And if we scroll to the top, then we can see right review and rating. As simple as that. So that's pretty much what you want to do. Another thing that I'd want to comment out is this rating thing that we've got over there. So let's start writing the view. Now, firstly, we want to grab whatever is it that we have passed into this form. So whatever is it that we passed into this form, we want to grab it in the view. And how do we do that? In order to do that, it's quite easy. What we're simply going to do is review. Actually, this is supposed to be a lowercase r. This should be equal to product underscore review dot object dot create. So what do we want to create? Now we want to go ahead and start creating a new review with whatever the user passed in here. So we're going to start with the user that's actually creating the review. Now let's get rid of this quote. I don't need that. I don't even know why I added it. So I'm going to say user should be equal to user. Now what does this mean? So I said product.objects.create. Now in this product review, there is all those fields that we've got here: user, product, review, rating, and date, right? Now I want to grab all this and assign it to whatever the user has passed in here. Okay, so how do we do that? I'm going to get back to the views, and user should be equal to user, product should be equal to product. That's not what I want. Product should be equal to product, and review should be equal to, now this is the one I'd want you guys to see. So review should be equal to request.post. Then we want to get the review that the user just passed in. Okay, and alongside the review, we also want to get the rating. So a user also passed in a rating, which is the one that they chose over here, and they passed in something like, hello, this is a nice product or whatever. So we got that, and we also got the rating over here. Simple as that. So now with all this being done, the next thing that we're going to do is just go ahead and take notes. Right now, all this is already created. The next thing we're just going to do is pass this into a context so that we could access it in our template. So I'm going to say user. So I'm going to say, I'm gonna get back here. I'm gonna say user should be equal to user dot user name, add a comma. And another thing that we're going to be needing is the review. So I'm going to say review should be, hopefully that's what I copied. I'm just going to get hit back here. I'm going to say review, and this should be equal to what? Request.post. Now we are using a post method, and I'm going to pass in review. I think I copied that already. Okay, so what else are we going to be needing? We're going to be needing the rating. So this is supposed to be a comma, not a full stop. So I'm going to say rating, and this should be in a string. Rating should be equal to request.post, and we want to pass in rating. Simple as that. And that's pretty much it. I actually want to get dates, the recent dates, but let's just not add in the dates. We're going to be doing that using JavaScript. Okay, so you see these keys over here that we created. I'm going to be showing you guys where we're going to be using this later. Okay, so if you don't understand anything that's going on here now, don't freak out. I still got your hand. I'm going to explain. So now let's also go ahead and get the average review. So I'm going to say average reviews. So average reviews should be equal to what? I'm going to get the product review. Remember how we got the average rating then? That's almost the same thing that we're going to do. So I'm going to say object.filter, and we want to filter product should be equal to product. Then remember how we did the aggregate thing? It's exactly the same thing that we're doing. This time around, I'm just going to pass in the rating, and this should be equal to average and rating. So that's pretty much it. Okay, this is actually supposed to be average rating. Okay, but I'm gonna stick with average reviews because that's what I've been using as a template already. Now if there is any cost changes, I'm gonna tell you guys immediately. So finally, hopefully you guys know that we are doing this using JavaScript. So that means we're going to be returning JSON, and you want to make sure to import this at the top over here. Okay, and I want to get rid of the smart thing that get imported. I don't want to have problems when deploying this to AWS. So now we return JSON, open up parentheses and break this apart because we want to pass in a couple of things in here. Firstly, I want to pass in Boolean. This should be true. So we're going to be checking when the Boolean is true, then we're going to be performing some things on this form over here, okay, like closing the form or hiding it, something like that. And another thing that I'd want to pass in is context. This should be here. So context should be equal to what? Context, which is this one that we created over here. Now take note, this text over here, you can call it whatever you want, but this one over here, you don't call it whatever you want. You pass in an actual value, okay? So finally, we should I think finally we should just get the average reviews because that's what we passed in. So I'm just gonna say average underscore reviews. This should be what I'm looking for over here. This is what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna copy this and put here. So average review should be equal to what? Average reviews. So that's pretty much what we want to do. Now we need to go ahead and pass in something or there's gonna be a problem. Now all this is supposed to be in a curly bracket like that and like this. So now there is not going to be any problem. We are pretty much done with this, but I'm going to explain what went on in these two places whenever we start working with this. And one more thing that I think might be missing is, let's actually see. Okay, this was just for creating the review. Okay, so when that's done, let's go ahead and create the URL. So for the URL, I'm just going to get down here. I'm going to get down here one more time, and I'm going to say reviews or add review. Okay, now with that one, I'm going to pass in a path, and you want to make sure that this is a path like this. And for this one, remember what we called the view was Ajax add review, but that doesn't mean that that's what you need to call it over here. I just like sticking with the same naming so I don't have a lot of problem whenever I wanna do something. Okay, now what I'm simply gonna do is I'm gonna borrow this letter W over there, and I'm gonna put it down here, and I also want to put it here. Okay, so now when we pass in Ajax add review, another thing that we want to pass in is the integer, and I'm going to pass in PID. So hopefully I told you guys this in the former video that you could use integers for this, or you could use strs, or you could use slug just like we did over here. Hopefully you guys still remember. Now why am I passing in this PID? Hopefully you already know it's because we have PID in here. So if we don't pass that in, there's going to be a big problem. So now when we've done that, I think that's pretty much what we want to do. Now let's get back to the URL and finish this up. So we need to also call the Ajax add review. That's it. And finally, we're going to give this a name, and this should be equal to Ajax add review. So I'm just going to grab that one and I'm going to put it down here, Ajax add review. As simple as that. Now let's go ahead and work with the JS file. That's where we're going to be performing most of the functionality. Then we're going to go ahead and start submitting this form. Okay, so I actually want to do this in the filters. So I'm just going to get up over here, open up the static, open up the JS. Okay, we got main.js, we got index mid.js, we got shop.js, right? You know, actually we could just do this down here and everything is still going to work perfectly well. So I'm going to say adding reviews. So instead of doing this in the shop.js, can't we just create our own JS file? So I'm going to create a new a new file, and I'm gonna call this function.js. Okay, so this is the one that we're gonna be using. Now, firstly, I'm gonna go ahead and log working fine. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna pass in working fine. Now with this, now what I simply need to do is go ahead and add in this in my base HTML, so it extended in all the templates. So I'm pretty much gonna get down here, and I want to add it just over here, but I want to make sure that I have removed all this, all that, and I'm gonna call the name of it. So it's function.js. That's it over there. Now let's get back here and refresh, or we could even add refresh, so it gets the JS files. Now I'm gonna open up my console, and from now on we're gonna be working a lot in the console. Okay, what do you notice? This it over here, working fine. So it's actually working. Okay, now we need to go ahead and start writing all this in the function. So the first thing that we could do is go ahead and get the comments form. So I'm gonna open up the products detail, and I even want to do the side by side, so you guys will see everything that's going on one screen. So I'm just gonna grab this product detail, and I'm gonna put it over there, and this is the comment form, right? This is the comment form. Now we want to check on submit of comment underscore form, this one over here. What do we want to do? So we could actually just give this an ID. Okay, there is already an ID, so I'm just going to grab this ID over here, and I'm going to come over here, and we want to check on submit of this current form. Now, so when this form gets submitted, what do we want to do? In order to get this form, the comments form, we're going to open up jQuery, and we're going to pass this in. This is the way to grab IDs in jQuery, and make sure to pass in a hash at the back. If it's a class, you add in a dot sign. Now I'm gonna say dot submit. So when this form gets submitted, what do we want to do? Now let's create a function that's gonna do something for us. Firstly, if we come over here now, and I'm just gonna get back here, and I'm gonna get back to the reviews. Okay, so we are in the reviews now. Let's say a user added a review, right, and hit submit. Now what do you notice? The page gets refreshed, right? And we don't even want that. We don't want the page to refresh, because we want to do all this asynchronously. Now the first thing that we're going to do is pass in an e parameter. Take note, you can pass in elements, it's totally up to you, but I just passed in e over there. Now what I want to do is simply go ahead and say e.prevent the default behavior. So e.prevent default, just like this. Now this is going to prevent the default behavior of a form which is refreshing after it gets submitted. So now let's try this one more time. I'm gonna get to the top over here in the reviews. I'm gonna fill out this form, and I'm gonna go ahead and submit. Now what do you notice, guys? Does it refresh the form? No, it doesn't. That's super cool, right? Yeah. So one thing that we could now do is go ahead and get we can now use Ajax to get all the data that the person is passing in here, to pass in the method, to pass in the URL that we want to get, to pass in the data type, and all that. Okay, so how do we do that? Now over here, let's make sure that we leave this form like this. Just down here, I'm going to go ahead and create Ajax. So I'm going to say dot Ajax, just like this, and I'm going to open this up that way. So the first thing that we could do is go ahead and get the data. So the data is pretty much whatever that the user passed in over here, this one over here. So whatever the user types in here, that's what the data is. Now in order to get that, we're going to get it using serialize. So I'm going to say this dot serialize. Okay, so this dot serialize, that's it. Now there's a problem over here. This is supposed to be serialize. Okay, so now we got that one. Another thing that I would want to get is the method. So what method are we going to be using? And as you guys know, it's going to be a post method. So over here in the form, I'm going to close this off. So over here in the form, we want to add a post method. If it doesn't exist already, I'm going to add a method, and that one is going to be post. So how do we get that in here? Now what we simply need to do is go ahead and call this, and I'm just going to open this up, and I'm going to say this dot attributes. And what attributes do we want to get? We want to get the method. So let me explain what's going on now if you guys don't still understand. Whenever you hear this, it calls the comments form. And where is the comments form staying? It's staying in this form over here, right? So we are using this comments form to connect to this one over here, which is the form that we've got in our HTML. Now whenever I will say this, it's going to get this comments form over here, which is this one. Now if you say this dot method, this, and we get the attributes. Now take note, method, ID, action, class, they're all attributes. So now we want to get an attribute. And what's the attribute I want to get? We want to get the method attribute. So if we get the method attribute, we automatically get the value that's in it, which is post. So that's what we got over here. Now, another thing that we're going to be needing is the URL. So remember that we created a URL in our urls.py, and that's where we're going to be submitting this to. And for that one, I'm simply going to say this dot. Then remember what we did before, the attribute thing. I'm simply going to get the action attributes. Okay, so now for that one, what we're going to do is come over here and add in that URL for the action. So I'm going to open this up, and what I could do is just go ahead and pass in URL, and I'm going to say core pipe. And now if you come over to urls.py, where is it? That's not it. Okay, there's it over here. So we could just copy this, right? We could just copy this and paste it down here. As simple as that. Now there is something else that we could do, and that is just passing in the URL directly in there. But okay, we could actually do that, and if we want, we couldn't do that. But I think we should just stick with what we've got now. Okay, so when we pass in all this, if we refresh this form, it's gonna throw an error because it's gonna be needing an ID. Hopefully you guys already guessed that right. Now what we simply need to do is pass in products.id. Okay, so you could either pass in product ID or product.pid. It's totally up to you, anyone that you'd want to use. Okay, so now in the function, as you guys can see, we got the action. So that's pretty much what we're going to be doing. Then finally, we need to go ahead and guess the data type. So what is the data type? Data type, just like that. And the data type is what? JSON. Okay, because that's what we are returning from the server, which is the views.py, where we wrote those functionality. So now if all this works, we want to go ahead and return a success function. So a success function is pretty much, you know, what we are going to use to append the comments. That's if everything actually worked out fine. And there is also an error function. That's if we had a problem. So we're going to pass in a response, and this response is pretty much anything that we're going to be getting from the server. That's what we're going to be doing in here. So we passed this. Now let's just go ahead and console log comments saved and see if this works. I'm going to console log comments saved to DB. Now let's just get back here and refresh, because we've been writing a whole lot of code. We want to make sure that that everything is actually working fine. So it says regex for this isn't found because it's looking for PID. Okay, so what we could do is just pass in a PID in here. We can pass in PID in here. I'm going to pass in that. And let's refresh this. Okay, still keeps showing the same error. Let's get back here. It says not found, one pattern tried, PID. Now I'm gonna get back here, and I'm just gonna pass in PID just like this. That's Ajax add review. Hopefully there is no problem. Now I want to refresh this one more time. Okay, so I think the problem might be because what we are using over here is P and not product. That's because if you come over to the product over here and you open up the product detail, then you can see that we're passed in P over here, not product. So that's what we should use. Now, if we refresh this error should be gone, and it's not still gone. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get rid of everything that we've got over here. Refresh, and I want to break out from my server, and I'm gonna run it again. So I'm gonna break out from this. I'm gonna run it again, but in the URLs, I want to make sure that I got this, and I got p.id over here. Okay, so I think that should be it. Let's go ahead and try refreshing this. Let's give it a hard refresh. Now it's working. So it's working perfectly well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get to the reviews, and I'm going to try submitting a review. I'm going to fill all this in, and I'm going to hit submit review. So now there's a problem. It says this is a server problem actually. If we open this up and come over here, now there is a forbidden. So it says this is actually forbidden. That's because I think we need to pass in a CSRF token. Okay, now in the form there's supposed to be a CSRF token for everything to work well. So I'm gonna say CSRF underscore token. Now let's refresh this, and while this is going, I want to refresh my nothing got saved in there. I refresh this. Okay, so now let's get back to the reviews, and let's try adding a review. I'm just gonna fill this in. I'm gonna hit submit. and let's come over to the console. Now what do you see? You say it's comment saved to the DB, right? And this didn't actually refresh. Now if we come over here and refresh, what do you notice? Now we get this new one, right? We get this new comment with the 4 stars. So if you don't still believe that and you think I cheated in a way, I'm gonna make this 1 star and I'm gonna say new comment. I'm gonna say another comment from form. I'm going to go ahead and save this, and it says comment saved to DB number 2. So if I come over here and refresh, what do you notice? Another comment from form, and we got it over here. So guys, that's it. We were successful with one thing, which is saving the form to the database. Now whenever we submit this form, we want to display it over here. Okay, so whenever we submit that form, we want to display it in here automatically. Now how do we do that? That's going to be pretty tricky if this is your first time working with jQuery Ajax, but don't worry, we're going to do that together. Okay, so what I want you to do is this: open up your function. So you open up your function JS, and just down here after the console log, what I'm going to do firstly is go ahead and we could go ahead and check for something. So I'm going to say if response, I think I just quit my Visual Studio Code. Now I'm going to open it up again. Okay, so we want to write a simple conditional statement that's going to help us do something. So I want to say if response, that's what we called it over here, right? That's what we call this one over here, if response. But actually this is pretty long. I'm just going to reduce it to res. Okay, res, or you could even stick with R. It's totally up to you. So we're going to say if response.bool. Now this response.bool is pretty much this one that we have over here. So we could say if response.bool or if response.context is equal to whatever, or if response.this. Now these are the ones that we come. So let's say we name this burrito. Now we're going to say if response.burrito. Okay, now I'm going to pass in bool over there, and in the function I'm going to say if response.bool is equal to true. That's what we want to check. So if response.bool is equal to true, which is actually true, which means something actually worked, then what do we want to do? Firstly, we want to go ahead and add in something down here, like an alert that's going to say review added. We could actually put that over here before we go ahead and continue. So just over here, I'm going to go ahead and just below add review, I'm going to put in we can actually call that a strong tag, and I'm going to say review added. Okay, and we could give this a class of text-success, so it actually looks a little bit better. Now that's it. Let's refresh this, and hopefully there is no error. Now what's the problem? Okay, our server isn't running, so I'm gonna run my server python manage.py run server, and that's it. So we should refresh this now, and everything should work perfectly well. So now if I get back to the comment section, this is it over here, refresh and get down here, what do you notice? Review added. So I don't want to show this every time. I only want to show it when a review gets added. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be doing. Now I'm going to get rid of this, and I want to give this strong thing an ID, and what we'll call it, we could just say review RSP. Okay, so I'm going to copy this review over here. I'm going to put it down there. I'm just going to say review-RSP. Okay, so whatever you want to name it is totally up to you. Now, if a comment gets saved, firstly, I want to go ahead and display that comment saved thing, like comment added successfully. And how do we do that? We're going to be doing it over here. Remember, we call this review resp. I'm going to copy this review resp and just paste it down here. Hopefully you guys can see. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see everything. So if I paste review res, now I'm going to go ahead and get the HTML. So the HTML is whatever that's in there. And I'm going to say something like review have been added or review added successfully. Okay, let's get rid of this review added successfully. Okay, now that's it, or review have been added, whatever. So now let's go ahead and try this again. I'm gonna come over here. Okay, let's come over here and grab so before we grab anything, let's try if that one is actually working. If it's working, then we're on the right path. So I'm gonna get back to the reviews over here, and I'm automatically gonna fill this in, and I'm gonna hit submit. Now what do you notice? It says review added successfully. So that's what we actually wanted. Okay,